It always has to do with your level of fear.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Uh-huh. If you're terrified, then it's a great big no. If you're a tiny bit terrified, then you're unsure.
Tiny bit
Okay.
for sure.
So there's nothing to worry about. Nobody cares. They're more interested in their own videos.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Fair enough.
Okay. Um, so basically, getting into the word progress, that's time oriented. And that many of the people who come into Buddhism is they bring a whole lot of Christian culture. They may not be Christians. They may have never set foot in a church, and yet they are swimming in a Christian sea.
Yeah.
It's just like I have never salted my food, says the shark, while he's living in a sea of salt. You
Right.
know, about
Right.
3%. Right? Okay, so
Right.
um, and that's where the idea comes is that you've got to suck up and keep sucking up, and when you get enough suck up going, then you'll get mercy.
Right. Right.
Okay,
Right.
that's the way that Christianity works. That in fact, the first word that you said to me was the word sorry.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so you couldn't get the computer going, and you fixed it. Why would you use the word sorry?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's part of our language. We're supposed to be sorry. It actually comes from um, that, oh, Daddy, I have already punished myself and hurt bad
Right.
enough.
Right.
Please don't hurt me more. I'm
Right.
already sorry.
Right.
I'm
Right.
already beaten down. You don't have
Right.
to beat me anymore. I'm punished enough
Right.
already.
Right. I've already
Okay.
internalized the punishment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um, and the real point is that right effort is the effort to actually get something done.
Right. Right.
Right? Right noble effort is defined as the least amount of effort to actually get the job done.
Right.
And yet people put either not enough effort in and don't get the job done, or they put way too much effort in it and make a great big mess, like a bull in
Right.
a china shop.
Right.
When all you wanted to do was to go to the back of the shop and go to the bathroom, take a dump, something like that. And you went destroying the place along the way, and that's progress.
Right. And those two feed each other because you have those moments where you're super intense and throwing everything at the wall, and then you throw your hands up and give up and do nothing for a bit, and then you go back again, and it's
Hmm.
a that's part of the cycle.
Yeah, you get tired and take a rest, and get tired and take a
Yeah.
rest, and get tired and take a rest. And in fact, that rest uh, has no effort at all in it,
Right.
rather than happily, calmly, peacefully put just the right amount of effort at just the right point and just the right time, and everything's cool.
Right.
Okay. Many examples of this. An example would be that the child wants to swing on the swing at the playground, and the adult comes by and pushes. It takes a lot of work to get that child going. If you don't push enough, then the swing doesn't move. But if you push too hard, you might hurt the child,
Right.
might throw them out of the swing. But you take a firm, good push and you push and get it going. The next time when the swing comes back, we still have to push because it's not going very far, but it's not as much push the second time.
Right. Right.
And yet it still goes even further. The third time and the fourth time, now we can get into a rhythm. The child is going enough, but we have to keep pushing the swing because if you don't push the swing, the child doesn't know how to pull and do that kind of stuff. And so the swing will come back down and rest to nothing again. The gravity takes over,
Right. Right.
which we could call in the human being the instincts.
Right.
Our ground based level is the instincts, and we have to push out of the instincts, but we can't push hard to out of the instincts, we'll get hurt. But if we stop pushing, then the instincts come back and take over again. So it takes just a little effort on a regular basis. This is
Right.
why we call it practice. is to do it over and over and over again. Okay. And so getting it swinging just the right amount. We're still looking for a balance, a middle path.
Right.
And so the everything is middle path, especially the right effort. I'll give you several examples of that. My favorite is imagine that you're standing on the road, and here comes a great big truck, semi, with his horn blaring, his lights flashing, and he's bearing right down on you, and there you are standing in the road. Okay? For meditators, there's three ways of handling of that. One is to become Popeye the Sailor Man, put your great big fist out, just crush that truck when it hits you.
Right.
And the other one is by the way, we call that the Mahasi method.
Okay. Right.
Or you can just sit there and let the truck run over you,
Right.
which is the Vajrayana or the choiceless awareness method.
Right. Right.
But the Buddhist method is neither one. Don't get hit by the truck.
Right.
The right, correct, just enough effort is to step out of the way.
Right.
Let it go by. Okay, to see the dukkha
Yeah.
rather than examining it and get stuck in it and or just get run over by it is
Right.
the normal way of living.
Right.
But then, in fact, you could say that the problem with Western Buddhism is that it has the teachings of the Buddha plus a whole lot of other stuff, including calendars and clocks.
Right. Right. Right.
Okay, but the Buddhist method does not have a calendar. The Buddha did not even have a clock in his day.
Right.
What we did have is a choice to
Right.
turn that light on or not.
Right. Right.
Okay, and we have to remember to look to see, oh, we need to turn the light back on. And
Right.
then we turn it on, and now we've got the light.
Right.
And this is basically the Eightfold Noble Path right there.
Right.
And that's all the Buddha teaches. He said, both formally and now, I teach only one thing, dukkha, dukkha nirodha.
Right.
And yet
Right.
the Mahasi method, the Popeye method, is dukkha, dukkha, dukkha. Let me look at that dukkha. I'm going to turn it over and look at the back of the
Right.
dukkha. Let us see what kind of denomination this coin is and see if we can get a bigger dukkha. And chase the dukkha right down the rabbit hole, because if I know dukkha well enough, it will solve its own problem.
Right.
So
Right.
we say, what is the it that does the problem solving? In other words, how low can you go? Well, you can get to the bottom. You can hit rock bottom where there's no place to
Right.
go now but up.
Right. Right.
But do we have to hit rock bottom? Can't we just recognize that we're in over our head and start swimming back up to the surface?
Right.
Why do we have to go all the way to the rock bottom?
Right. Right.
Okay. And yet, you probably heard the word dark night of the soul in reference.
Sure. Yeah. No. I know that's what you're referring to. Yeah.
Yeah, is hitting rock bottom when we
Yeah.
don't have to hit rock bottom. In fact, here's another example, and this is so funny. Don't take it wrong. And
No.
that is a turd is a turd. You could see a pile of dog turds out in the yard. You don't have to go inspect it.
Right.
You don't have to take the turd, put it in your hand, mess it around like that, put it on your face, smell it, rub it in, rub it
Right.
all over, put it on the wall. Well, that's the Mahasi method.
Right. Right. Right.
Okay. The only thing that we need to do is to see dukkha enough right here, right now, and change it immediately.
Right. Right.
So that's what we really mean by right view. Right view is not rubbing our face in it.
Right.
Right view is keeping our distance from it.
Right. Right.
And so right noble view means that if we can see things at a distance, it's really easy to avoid.
Right.
It's really hard to avoid that truck when it really is right on us. But if we can see it at least 20 feet ahead, we can get out of the way.
Right.
Okay.
So what?
Go ahead.
What do you say to the person who the truck is coming, but their feet are stuck in the mud? They're kind of like they know to get out of the way, but they're just a little stuck.
They don't know to get out of the way. They know it. I can get out of the way in a sort of intellectual, philosophical way.
Right. Right.
but they're not taking the right effort to get out of the mud right now.
Right. Right.
They
It's right
still
effort.
have somewhere in the attitude is that I'm stuck.
Right.
All right. This idea of I'm stuck is the attitude that we're born with. Every
Right.
tender infant is completely dependent. We
Yeah.
can't feed ourselves. We don't even know what a tit is. All we know is to suck. And somebody else has to put the tit in the mouth so that we can suck.
Right.
And sometimes there's even a substitute tit. It's not a real tit, it's a bottle. and so we're out of control.
Right.
Then when we're little kids, we start school, we're still out of control. You got to go to school today. Wake up, get out of
Right.
bed. They go around ordering us around. Put your clothes on, learn to tie your shoes, do your homework. And so we stay victims.
Right. Right.
We grow up and become adults with an adult mind and an adult body, but we still have a victim's attitude, a
Yeah.
child's attitude.
Right.
Even the bully has that child's attitude because he's
Sure.
still looking for love by being able to hurt other people.
Right. Right. 100%.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So he does not know how to find real love at all. So the kind of attitude that we're talking about is the real winner's attitude. Is what then is called the super mundane, to be above the.
Right.
And one of the phrases that I've used is got this, by the way, from a student, and I just completed it a little bit, that every one of us, each one of us, is an emperor of our own pile of dirt,
Right. Right. Right.
our own pile of debris, our own past, every one
Sure.
of us. The question is, are you buried under your pile of dirt?
Right.
Are you climbing your way out of your pile of dirt? Are you
Right.
sitting on top of your world?
Right. Right. Right.
And this is an attitude, and many people are born with the attitude, and then the dirt just keeps piling on, and we're buried under it.
Right.
And
So
the
so
long, go ahead.
so what's the how would you how would you define like the role of meditation in becoming that emperor,
Well,
or
we have
defining
we have
what
to,
kind of emperor you're going to be?
yeah, define what kind of emperor you're going to be is by defining what kind of emperor you are right now.
Right.
And if you keep defining what kind of emperor you are right now over and over and over again, it gets easier to do that. That's the right effort.
Right.
You're asking the right question. And that is that we change our attitude immediately. We see the dukkha and we come right out of it, the dukkha nirodha, immediately. By seeing the dukkha, we are already disgusted with it. We don't have to
Right.
inspect it that deeply
Right.
to be disgusted with it and know that I can throw that unwholesome thought right out of my mind, right here, right now.
Right. Right.
The Buddha used the phrase, aha, I see you, Myra.
Right. Right. Right.
I see
Yeah.
you, unwholesome thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or for the guy who just went to the Mahasi teacher at the Wat, and he says, "Oh, you've got to really, really look at the dukkha." And immediately the student starts thinking about his ex-girlfriend.
Right. 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 Yeah. Right.
Okay, so he's actually now in the dukkha. He's got a. You don't have to think about the old
Yeah.
girlfriend. That's not a good thing to do right now.
I was gonna say finding the dukkha is the easy part. Like, let's be honest, it's everywhere, right? So
All
no.
we have to do is look.
Yeah.
All we have to do is remember to look.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as soon as we see that unwholesome thought, make a change
Right. Right.
to a wholesome thought. And the change to the wholesome thought is, aha, I saw that.
Right. Right. So you
Aha, I can
recognize.
see you.
Yeah.
And that's a new thought, which is
Right.
also a winner's thought,
Right. Right.
which is, oh no, poor me, here it comes again, is still the loser's mentality.
Right. 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 Sure. Why are you still here?
Yeah, why is that dukkha still here? I just threw you out. Why are
Yeah.
you back?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Well, guess what? It's a new dukkha. It's not the same one that you threw out already.
Right. Right.
It's a
Right.
new moment, something
Right.
new. And
Right.
so
I
we can
get
throw
that.
it
I
out.
get that for sure.
Okay, so the main point then is to be able to see how you feel, see the body. In fact, we work with all parts of the tetrad, including not just the thoughts that we have can be
Right.
changed from unwholesome to wholesome, but our mental state.
Right.
The state of mind we're in is, in fact, this Sama Sankappa also, in the sense of um, becoming our attitude or our intentions. So the state of mind forms the intention of the way that we're leaning, which will then form the thoughts that we have.
Right.
But by
Absolutely.
changing the thoughts over and over and over again, we begin to change our state of mind and we change our state of intention.
Right.
And now, how do we change the state of mind? Well, the Buddha uses the phrase gladdening the mind or brightening the
Right.
mind,
Right.
which is aha, that's the brightening. I see
Right.
you, Mara.
Right.
Okay, it's not, oh, here's Mara again. No,
Right.
it's aha. I can brighten the mind. I can look and I can say, I catch you. I see you.
So that's the turning on of the light switch, and then it's just on.
Turning, and then it's for right now,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but it might go back off again. You got to turn it back on again when you recognize that it's gone off. Can you
Right.
look and see? So this is the little sequence that happens over and over and over again within
Right.
the teaching of the Eightfold Noble Path. The
Right.
Eightfold Noble Path is this step, and then this step, and then this step, and then this step. Keep on the path, and what that means is to remember to investigate what's in the mind, to investigate what state of mind we have, to investigate how we feel, and to investigate the body. Now,
Right.
you don't do all of that at the same time,
Right.
but over a period of 5 minutes, you can look at this and look at that one by one as they occur.
Right. 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 Got that.
Okay. And as they occur, we can now see it and then make a change.
Right.
Those three things the Buddha says in Sutra number 117 in the Majjhima Nikaya: right effort with right sati, the remembering to wake up
Yeah.
and be here now, and
Right.
to look at what's going on right now. So that is sati, ditti, and virya. Those are the
Right.
Pali words. You don't have to write it down, it's not important. You'll pick them up later.
I
And
know
those three
sati.
things run and circle around each other.
Yeah.
Well, it's better to use sati because the English language translation of it is broken
Right. Right.
big
Right.
time. The
Right.
word mindfulness is not what we're practicing here.
No. Yeah.
Okay, then in fact, you could say mindfulness is to really smear that dukkha turd all over your body. That's being mindful. Really inspect it. Really get a hold of it is not
Right.
what we're doing. We're seeing it from a distance, say, aha, I see you. And
Right.
then we
Right.
don't step in it.
Right. Right.
The example that I use is the farmer goes into the pasture, and there are the cows are way over on the other side of the pasture, and so he's got his eye on the cows. You know, they move around, and so he's watching where they are so he can get directly to them. And while he's got his mind and his eye on those cows and walking through that, all across that pasture, he's going to be covered in cow shit by the
Right.
time he gets there because he's
Right.
not watching where he's going.
Right. 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 Right.
Okay. And so the right thing to do is to watch each step.
Right. Right. Right.
Watch every step, watch every moment, this moment, right now, over and over again. It's a perpetual now. No calendar, no progress involved.
Right.
Just
Right.
can you take this step and keep the cow shit off your shoes?
Right.
That's the question. Okay. Can you take this next breath without it being dirtied up by
Right.
unwholesome thoughts?
Right.
And so we do this kind of inspection. Is the body safe? Is it comfortable? Is it relaxed? Where's the tension? And so that's one of the parts that we can do. The Vedana would be, how do I feel? Do I feel afraid? Do I feel sad? Do I feel dejected? Do I feel safe and secure or afraid? Do I feel discomfort or do I feel comfortable
Right.
as a feeling? And then, are we satisfied or not?
Right.
Well, this is actually the point because dukkha nirodha is dissatisfaction or satisfaction? Which are you going to choose?
Right.
And we
Right.
begin to
Right.
work on, I feel satisfied. This is good enough. What
Right.
satisfaction means is it's good enough. It
Right.
may not be everything. That in fact, just a sip of water will do. I don't have to drink the whole ocean, or
Right.
even the
Right.
whole pond, or even the whole quart jar.
Right.
Just a sip will do.
Got it.
Okay, so when the sip will do, and we can continue just to take a sip and be satisfied over and over and over again, guess what happens? We begin to notice I'm successful at being satisfied. But
Right.
in fact, satisfaction, that's when the job is done.
Right.
If there's
Right.
still more work to do, we're not satisfied. We got to go do that work.
Right.
But when
Right.
the work is done, we feel satisfied. And when we feel satisfied over and over and over and over again, keep going for that satisfaction, we begin to change the attitude from, oh, I'm never satisfied and I can't get
Right.
no satisfaction and I'm
Right.
looking for love and I don't ever find it because I'm looking for love in all the wrong places. And that attitude begins to change. Hey, I can do this. I'm
Right.
successful at this. I can watch my breath. I can
Right.
see my feelings. I can
Right.
do this. I can feel satisfied with my practice.
Right.
And by that satisfaction comes the word success.
Right. Right.
Okay. Now, the word piti and sukha are the Pali words. Now,
Right.
the word sukha means exactly opposite to the word dukkha. Sukha and dukkha are opposites. And so we're actually, if the whole point of the teaching and we're practicing the teaching of the Buddha, then we need to get out of that dukkha to be free from it.
Right.
Right here, right now.
Right.
Let's go into a state from being dissatisfied. Let's get ourselves into a state of satisfaction.
Right.
And when we practice that over and over and over again, we begin then to change that underlying attitude of being a loser into being a winner. I can be satisfied.
Right.
I'm satisfied often. Then, in fact, we've developed that skill to the point that we can just take a breath and just remember, that's right, this really is good.
Right. Right.
And just that thought's enough just to bring us out of whatever misery that we had into reality. And reality is nice. Here now is good.
Yeah.
The things that we're afraid of are either in the past or in the future.
Right.
Like when you mentioned that you were a little bit afraid, you were a little bit afraid of something that's going to happen way off into the
Right.
future.
Right. Yeah.
A month from now, before anybody ever see your video or whatever.
Right. Right.
Okay, so you're afraid of something that's off into the future.
Right. So let me ask you, one time I heard you say that the idea of no self is overrated.
Oh, so overrated. Westerners are they're lost in that.
Yeah, I think I've been
I,
lost in that at times.
mm-hmm. That the actual word anatta is better translated as no soul. And what we mean by no soul is nothing permanent, substantial, and strong enough that it's even going to outlast death. There's nothing
Right.
such as that. Anything that dies is dead.
Right.
That's it. There's no
Yeah.
soul to be resurrected. Okay, because that kind of belief is that I'm not going to die or that I get a do-over or whatever like that actually then gives over our attitude to become a victim of the
Right.
karma machine,
Right.
gods,
Sure.
heavens, hells, our stars, whatever like that.
Yeah.
They run us, and all we can do is make merit or suck up to them. And then in the next life, I'll get some value out of it. It'll
Right.
make my practice easier,
Right.
right?
Right.
And
Right.
many Buddhists, just like all the Christians, they all
Sure.
have that
They all
mentality
got it.
of
Right.
I'm a suck up, a victim, I'm a prisoner here,
Right.
and I have no choice about it.
Right. Right. Right.
And here the Buddha, right there on the Eightfold Noble Path, is pointing out you've got a choice right here, right now.
Right. Right.
Uh, uh, I think that it was Lao Tzu who had this to say, that our thoughts and our feelings condition our speech,
Right.
and our speech conditions our behavior.
Right.
An example of that is that the politicians now are all afraid Occasionally, one of them will get attacked, but they're all being attacked in the sense of threatened. The
Sure.
verbal part, even though that it's on the internet, on the social media or whatnot, but it's
Right.
still that I'm going to get you always precedes the actual act of going out and doing some harm.
Right. Right.
Okay. And so if we do the harm over and over again, we get into the habits, and the habit then determines our destiny.
Right.
An example of that you've heard is he who lives by the sword dies by the sword.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, that's easy to see. I mean, the 20-year-old,
Sure.
he may kill everybody around him with that sword, but if he carries that sword when he's still 85, somebody's going to, at the age of 20, is going to cut that 85-year-old man in half. He
Totally.
should put down that sword or he's going to get
Right.
it.
Yeah. I hear that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's our destiny. And
Right.
the only way out of the destiny is to recognize right now I put down the sword,
Right.
knowing I'll pick it up later, but I'm going to put it down when I remember it. And then I'll
Yeah.
pick it up again out of habit, and then I'll put it down again.
Yeah.
And pretty soon we develop the habit of putting the sword down, and
Right.
putting the sword down habit is even stronger than the picking the sword up habit.
Right. Right.
Okay, but we have to practice that. But there's no progress, there's just skill development.
Right.
And
Right.
we have to practice it over and over and over again. The word practice, that's possibly the most correct translation that Western Buddhism uses.
Right.
Mindfulness is not a good word. Meditation is a terrible word. Okay?
Tell me about that.
Well, meditation actually means the contemplation.
Contemplating. Right.
Okay, trying to think. In fact, it's dukkha, 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 more dukkha. Let me get a
Right.
Trinity dukkha. Let me get a Mother Mary dukkha. Let me go get
Right.
a all heaven dukkha and a hell dukkha and all of that kind of stuff. But
Right.
it's kind of it's mulling things over. And it's never fixing anything.
Right.
It's not recognizing that those thoughts about the Trinity are unwholesome.
Right.
They're,
Right.
we're thinking about some imaginary thing that doesn't really exist.
Right. Right. Right.
And so we can stop thinking about that and start thinking about the reality of the situation of, oh, I'm so comfortable. Oh, that's such a good breath. Oh, I feel so relaxed. That's the reality of the moment.
Right.
Is to keep coming back to, I feel good. Yeah.
Right.
Because we practice that over and over, throwing that unwholesome thought out.
Right.
We literally talk ourselves into brightening the mind, gladdening the mind, changing the state of mind, and then we actually talk ourselves into feeling good.
Right. Sure.
We've talked ourselves into feeling bad our whole life. We're very good at it.
Right. Right.
And while we're talking ourselves into feeling good, there will slip in thoughts of feeling bad.
Right.
And then we feel bad. It's
Right.
easier to feel bad than it is to good. We're very experienced at it. We've
Right.
got the skill of feeling bad nailed.
What about like when like inevitably you're tired of talking yourself into it, and I guess is that
Then
when the momentum
recognize
kicks in?
that tiredness. That
Right.
tiredness then, and talking yourself into it is tiring,
Right.
is an unwholesome thought. Oh, I see that thought of tiring. Never mind,
Right.
I can handle this.
Right. Right. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Recognizing that
It's
that
very
for sure
empowering.
is huh?
It's very empowering.
Yes, it is. Once you recognize that you have a choice about what you're going to think about.
Yeah.
And if you're thinking about what's going on right now, it's quite pleasant. But in fact, the thoughts of it's tiring is off into the future. We have to have
Right.
thoughts of it's tiring before we actually feel tired. You just talked yourself into feeling tired.
Right. 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 Right.
So now we can talk ourselves out of, well, I'm not really tired. I'm just relaxed and I'm just having a fun. There's no reason to feel tired.
Right.
I'm not even doing anything to feel tired over.
Right.
I'm not
Right.
tuckered out.
Right.
And so we begin to tell ourselves the truth rather than saying, oh, I've been doing this, I'm getting bored with it, I've done it over and over again. That too is an unwholesome thought.
Right. Right.
I see you. No, I'm having too much fun to get bored with it.
Right. So it's
And so
just
we let go, keep going, keep
yeah,
looking, and keep changing your thoughts. And
right,
guess what? By also learning to control the breath, we're learning to control the mind.
right, right,
That you can't control the breathing unless you've already are controlling the mind. You remember to take a deep breath.
right,
So why not congratulate yourself? You just are able to breathe the way you want to breathe rather than letting the body do its own breathing. You can
right.
actually control it. Yeah, I can control. Look at me. I can watch this. Oh, wow, I can breathe in. Yeah, I can. I can control the breath. And
Yeah.
so those are happy little thoughts. Just keep having those. This is a good breath. No place to go, nothing to do. The spring comes and the grass grows by
Mm.
it, and I don't have to fix the grass. I don't even have to mow the grass. I just let it grow.
What's the relationship between formal practice and just gladdening the mind in your walking around day to day life?
Formal is an unwholesome practice. Stop it.
Right, right,
Okay.
right.
That in fact the whole idea of formal practices is you got to give us a whole lot of money and come sit in our hall and do what we tell you to do, and we'll teach you how to do formal practice. You
Right,
got to
right,
work.
right, right, right. It's not official until you come here, and then yeah,
Right. Hmm.
yeah. Okay. Well, that's really interesting. So forget formal, but do
Okay,
you
so let's describe it this way. Instead of formal, you take the word formal off and use the words the Buddha used. Go to a tree,
right?
go to a forest, go to an empty hut,
Yeah,
go to a pile of straw, and sit down. And by the way, the in the English language version, it says sit cross-legged. The cross-legged is not there.
right. Really,
Actually, the Pali word means a couch or a chair.
right.
It does not mean cross-legged. But
Mm.
Westerners, they've seen Asians sitting down comfortably cross-legged. So the Westerners, who, by the way, the Asians have been sitting cross-legged on the floor for every meal they eat.
Right, right. Yeah,
And so they're used to coming to the Wat and sitting on the floor.
right,
Guess what? Westerners were grabbed up off the floor when they were still in diapers and put into a high chair.
right.
And we're not supposed to sit on the floor. It's dirty and it's cold. And the Thais don't wear shoes in the house so that they can
Right,
keep their floor clean so that the kids can sit on the floor for the rest of their lives.
right.
So when Westerners go into that meditation hall and sit down cross-legged, they're bound to have a whole lot of leg pain. And the Asians will say,
Right,
yeah, does it right. Yeah, you guys, you sit there and you get yourself a whole lot of pain. And then you can examine that pain. This is what we're all
right,
about.
right,
Note
right,
that
right, right,
dukkha. Yeah.
right,
Dukkha, dukkha, dukkha. Here's
right.
some. You got in that knee and in this knee and in your
Yeah,
back and in your neck. Yeah, we got some dukkha here. You just keep sitting, you'll get some dukkha.
yeah,
So that's the mentality that the Westerners have developed, thinking that you got to work, you got to struggle. And in fact, the whole teaching of the Buddha is to come out of all of that kind of
right,
stuff and start having an easy life. But the trick word is seclusion,
right, right,
to get away from all the unhappy people so that you only got one unhappy person to deal with.
right,
Why try to fix a whole civilization or a whole country full or maybe a whole house full of people when you can't even fix one?
right, right.
So we go into seclusion. The Buddha has a story about that, about the log and the bog. That when a cypress tree or the kind of trees that are in a swamp, when they die and fall over, eventually it will sink. Some of them are at the level to where this log is just at the top of the surface of the water, but it's hard to see it. It is possible for logs to go all the way to the bottom. They can sink all the way down. But if they sit there for years, you can't set that log on fire. It's waterlogged.
Right,
Okay.
right,
So we need to get it out of the swamp and get it high and dry for a little
right,
while so
right,
that the sun can bake down on it, and the gravity can pull some of that moisture down so that just the top bit of the log, now we can set it on fire.
Right. Right.
Okay, can't take
Right.
up the whole log, it's still wet. But this is the way that we teach for the Westerner, especially, or for the lay people, is to get away from it all on a regular
Right.
basis. Let yourself dry out so that you can catch the Dhamma. You can catch it on fire. We
Right.
want we want to have that life. That in fact, what the Dhamma is all about life.
Right.
That we are alive,
Right.
but we're so afraid of death that we wallow in it. That's why we
Right.
believe in rebirth and reincarnation, is because we have this DNA, this instinct, this bottom line of the fear of death. It's called the
Right.
self-preservation instinct. It's kept
Yeah.
you alive, by the way. You would have
Right.
already been dead if you had absolutely no fear. People who are
Right.
completely fearless and have no wisdom wind up dead in a hurry.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So what we're doing is that as we remove the fear, we substitute that with wisdom, with the ability to
Right.
look and to see what's going on and to recognize that's dangerous. Don't do it. I don't have to be afraid to run out in the road. I already know to look
Right.
both ways before I walk across the road. Now I'm doing it with wisdom.
Right.
Okay. So this is what we're doing now is that we're seeing the dukkha with wisdom, and the more wise we are, the easier it is to see. We don't have to
Right.
wallow in it.
Right. Right. I'm definitely with you on that. So the seclusion. Tell me, like, for someone like I'm definitely a layperson. Like I have kids. I have, I'm a
That's
householder.
that's by the way. Yeah, now you're using the right language. I use the word lay, but we have to understand that lay is a word that the Catholics use,
Right.
and
Right.
it's been plastered all over Buddhism.
Right. Right. So
Okay,
householder.
householder.
Yeah. So the seclusion. Don't get me wrong. I have moments of seclusion, but how does someone like myself?
Use those moments of
Yeah.
seclusion wisely.
Right. Right. Right.
An example would be riding the bus or riding an airplane or subway or whatever
Sure.
like that, being a
Sure.
passenger of a car. But you can also practice correctly while you're driving the car.
Yeah. Right.
Why is that? In fact, you'll be a much safer driver because you are intentionally being mindful and watch the road.
Right. Right. Right.
Okay? That in fact, what makes a race car driver, like Formula One race car drivers, especially if they're good enough to retire before they kill themselves,
Right.
okay,
Right. 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 Right.
is because they've got the ability to watch the moment, to be in the present moment, and to watch the road.
Right. Right.
That you can imagine that here you are in a Formula One and you're just tooling down the road at 160 to 200 miles an hour, and an old lady steps right out.
Right.
You can see
Right.
her right out there.
Right.
If you have the thought, "Oh, lady, you ought not be out here," you just killed her.
Right. 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 Right.
Right? Because we weren't driving the car, we weren't doing it, we were thinking now.
Right.
We were
Right.
setting a set of rules.
Right.
That the right thing to do is just get out of her way
Right.
without even
Right.
having to think about her.
Right. Right. The thinking is step two.
Dangerous.
Yeah. Well, it's like step one was the awareness, and step two was the thinking. And by
Mhm.
adding step two, you didn't. Step one got messed up, right?
Well, actually, action got messed up because we
Right.
got distracted.
Right.
Okay.
That's better said. Yeah.
hmm So, uh, if we are going to be driving our lives at a reasonable rate, we still have to watch where we're going,
Right.
just like driving a car. Okay, because I mean, not all accidents happen in Formula One racetracks.
No. No.
No, most of the accidents happen because people are out driving and not paying attention. They
Right.
get
Right.
distracted.
Right.
All
Right.
right. So if you're not driving the car, but you're just sitting in the car, now is an excellent time to practice to go within, in the sense of instead of watching the road,
Right.
we're watching this road too.
Right. Right. Right.
Okay. Instead of reading the books behind you on the shelf, read this book.
Right.
Watch what the thinkings are, because this
Right.
book is sort of like a bottom line on the bottom of the television. The newscasters, they're talking while
Right.
other
Right.
news is at the bottom. Okay, well, that's the line to start watching. It's this
Yeah.
ticker tape that goes through
Yeah.
the mind that we call discursive thought.
Right. Right.
Okay, and when it becomes unwholesome, become the editor.
Right.
Chop and paste and start putting in wholesome thoughts rather than the old fashioned ticker tape that has all the bad news in it.
So it's more. Let me ask you this: like, it's more replacing. Like, you must replace with the wholesome thought, or is it more just the recognition of the unwholesome thought itself burns it up?
Well, basically, because you spent a mind moment of looking. See, before we were in a mind moment of thinking,
Right.
discursive thoughts.
Right.
But that's a different kind of thinking than
Right.
actually looking. I mean,
Right.
even going down the street, or if I look out and I see the car, I don't have to start thinking about car.
Right.
When I describe it to you, I'm telling you a story.
Hmm.
But that's not the same as seeing the car.
Right. Right.
All right. So seeing the car or listening to a sound when we're hearing something, or maybe we can sitting in meditation hall and the knee hurts. And so that's one by one as they occur. Now coming into the awareness is the knee hurts.
Right. Right.
Okay. Which means that the knee is giving us a message, hey, I'm in pain here. Can you do something to help me? And the answer to that is then move.
Right. Right.
But unfortunately, they've got a rule saying, oh, no, you're not supposed to stretch your feet out and point to the front. You're not supposed to move. You're supposed to sit
Right.
here
Right.
in pain, right?
Right. Right.
Why? Why do they
Right.
teach the people to sit in pain?
Well, they
They're
they
not ready
say
for that. Go ahead.
they say you're get. Oh, no, no. I'm just to get
I
my head
know.
on
Go ahead.
straight. They say you're giving into craving if you indulge that, right? Like, you're indulging the craving by wanting to move, right? By indulging the
Well, you
restlessness.
already want to move,
Right.
right? So
Right.
the craving is already there to move.
Right.
Okay. In fact, they're missing the whole point about craving. All right.
Yeah,
Let
tell me
us
about
see.
craving,
All right. There
please.
is wholesome craving and there is unwholesome craving. Sometimes the craving is wholesome. In fact, we can use the word attachment because that's the word that's been translated out of the Pali into English. And there's suttas. There's one sutta after another that has the quality of, in fact, one of them is called, um, oh, what is it? One Fortunate Night. Well, in the old days, they used the word night for our day. One fortunate day, when we say the word day, that means 24 hours starting at midnight and ends at midnight.
Right. Right.
But in some languages, the day starts at 6 p.m. at sundown in the tropics.
Right.
Okay. So when you actually go to a hotel, you want to spend the night there. And so many times they will list it. Do you want one night or two? And that's what they mean. Okay.
Right.
So here we're talking about the word day and night actually become interchangeable.
Right.
And so when they say one fortunate night, they also mean one fortunate day. But
Yeah.
in Nepali, they use the word night. Okay. So there it's talking about, it's also translated as one fortunate attachment.
Mm.
Okay. And I can give you many things that are worthy of attaching to. Good, noble friends,
Right. Right.
breathing, um, being in the present moment.
Right.
Okay, those are good attachments to
Right.
attach to. All right, but in Western language, because of our Christian influence, once
Right.
you use the word, it's got a definition, and clinging is clinging, all clinging.
Right.
Okay, basically, I know of several people personally who have hurt themselves with that method
Sure.
because they put the leg in pain and they leave the leg in pain and it
Yeah.
starts messing up. Just like
Yeah.
if you leave a cake in the oven too long, way too long, it's going to
Yeah.
turn from batter to cake to a burnt cake to just a carbon left. There's nothing left of it.
Right.
All the water and all the egg and everything is burned, right? And people have burned out their knees because of that. And guess what? All the while they were clinging to something like results of meditation. They were clinging to concepts like enlightenment, clinging to concepts like nibbana. Oh, I'm supposed to sit here and endure the pain. And in fact, what they're actually doing is they're practicing dukkha big time.
Right.
Okay.
So I can't let you go past that yet. So for you, nibbana is an attachment, do you think, or
no?
the concept, the
concept I use,
the
pursuit of it, right?
Yeah.
To where actual nibbana is just being chill, just cool off.
Right.
That's what the word meant.
Right. It's like blowing out, right? Like.
Right, in the sense of conditioning. That when there are no conditions, then things will relax. An example is you're tooling down the road and all of a sudden the gasoline that was going into the engine is out.
Right.
Run out of gas, they call it, right? Guess what? That means there's no more gasoline to condition the engine. The engine now, instead of being a powerhouse, actually becomes a drain because of all of those cylinders that have to be pushed up and down because of the back wheels. Which means now the engine is no longer conditioning the back wheels. The back wheels are conditioning the engine because it's got no gas to condition it.
Right.
And the car comes to a stop because it's not being conditioned anymore to go forward.
Right.
So then now the car has stopped. It nibbanas. It cools off because it's got no more gasoline as a conditioner. Okay, so there's no more fuel for the fire. The fire goes out.
Right.
So that's what we're practicing. Stop putting fuel on the fire.
Right. Got it. I got that. Right.
Or use good fuel, good wholesome fuel, as opposed to dirty, moss covered. So if you got a wood stove, if you put good wood in it, then you're going to have a hot flame. You're going to have a little smoke. But if you put wood in it that's covered with moss that you got out of the bog or whatever, and put that wood in it, it's going to be not so hot and smoky.
And smoky, yeah.
Right. So all of that stuff that you put in there that was with the wood is now conditioning the fire as well as the wood conditioning the fire.
Right.
But eventually, if you put no more wood or anything in there, the fire is going to go out.
Right.
No more conditioning. So this is the way that we understand that nibbana is just conditionless. It's unformed, unconditioned, and people in the West, they start thinking magical.
Right. For sure.
Okay, so it's not a magical thing. It's just taking the fuel away from the fire goes out. Easy as that.
Right.
You leave that fire on, it's going to burn stuff up.
Right.
Okay, so we need to now condition the mind with wholesome thoughts rather than conditioning the mind with unwholesome thoughts.
Right. So
and eventually we'll learn to not condition at all and just relax.
Right. So in terms of there's also times when you need the mind as a tool that is like a kind of sharp intellectual tool. How do you differentiate that from the chill? There's times when you need to.
All right, let's say that let's use the example of writing code.
Sure.
That's an intellectual exercise, and you're sitting there and you're writing code. Okay, got that. All right, so let's put two stories with that. One is that the 7-year-old is there playing with his computer, perhaps learning how to write code, and his dad walks down the hall, and that kid knows that his dad's coming. So immediately he switches off the screen, he switches off the light switch, and he jumps into bed as dad's opening the door. He knew dad was coming. He heard him coming down the hall. Fast forward 10 years. And now the 17-year-old is actually writing decent code.
Right.
PHP and C and Java and all of that kind of stuff. And dad walks down the hall and the kid doesn't know anything because he is in that code. And dad opens the door and he's still in the code. And dad says good night and the kid's still in the code. The dad gets pissed off because the boy won't say anything, and the dad slams the door and the kid's still not paying any attention. And now he's gotten his dad angry at him because he's too intellectually absorbed. He's
Right.
not paying attention.
Right.
Okay. Then, in fact, this is what we're talking about, that we can get deep into something. Like you mentioned about, well, what if you're knee deep in mud? It's hard to get out of the way.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That means
Right.
that you're knee deep in the mud because you're concentrating on something and you're
Right.
not paying attention to the fact that you got a truck coming down the hall.
Right. Right. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I hear you.
So
I got you.
So this is why Western Buddhism is so messed up. Is
Mhm.
potentially because of one word: concentration.
Mm-hmm.
Because the word samadhi does not mean concentration. It means organization, not
Right.
concentration. So the example right off the bat with this would be frozen concentrated orange juice is that they take the water out for shipment. They freeze it, and then the people buy it from the grocery store and come put it in their freezer. But when it's time to drink it, we don't drink frozen concentrated orange juice. We make it whole again by putting the water back in. So
Right.
we drink it when it's samadhi. When it's
Right.
concentrated, it's worthless.
Right. Right.
Just like when that kid was writing his code and he was concentrating on it, and dad came down the hall, his code is worthless to his relationship to his dad.
Right.
Okay, the next statement would be about the Zen stick with the Zen master. You know, you've heard stories about
Yeah.
Zen stick. Who gets hit with the Zen stick?
The sleepy, drowsy meditator.
Well, how is the teacher, how is the master going to know that the guy is sleepy, drowsy?
I guess they begin to or
Okay,
slouch and
and
hunch.
so if the meditator is sitting that way, and then he recognizes that the teacher came up, standing up behind him, was about to hit him on his shoulder, and he sits up a bit, will the teacher then hit him?
No.
No. Okay. So basically, what we're actually saying is that the teacher is wise enough to know whether the student knows that he's there.
Right.
And if the student is so out of it, he's so concentrated that he's not even aware that the teacher's behind him, we're going to what? Wake him up?
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what sati is all about. Is we use triggers to wake ourselves up to be in the present moment.
Right.
And yet, Western meditation is all about contemplation and concentration,
Right.
and they're
Right.
missing the whole teaching of the Buddha.
Right. Right.
The teaching of the Buddha, the word Bud or Bodh or Bodhi actually means, it's very close to sati. It means to wake up.
Right.
It means
Right.
to be awake, to see what's happening, to be in
Right.
present, to not be off lost in our own world
Right.
in a state of daydreaming. And the way that we start off is by first making our daydreams positive.
Right.
And then we can come out of the daydreams and just be in reality. We'll talk about that later when we get into the teaching of Paticca Samuppada and about perception and all of that.
Right.
Okay? Because we get lost in perception.
Right. Right. Right.
Never coming to an actual conclusion sometimes.
So can I ask about so how do the jhanas, play into, is that a misconception that these highly concentrated states?
Right. And in fact, they are not highly concentrated states.
Right. Right.
That's the problem.
Right.
Okay. The second problem is that the higher the number, the better. That in fact, some people go so far as say, "Oh, well, let's not have 4 jhanas, let's have 8."
Right. 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 Yeah.
And then they'll run across Sutta number 111, I think it is, and then they'll say, "Oh no, there's 9."
Right. Right.
Okay. Right. And the higher the number, the better. just like money, right?
Right. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, that in fact happened to the Buddha before he was enlightened, before he
Right.
figured it out. And so anybody who understands that story immediately understands then that the jhanas, the higher the jhana, the less likely it is to be what we need, and the more difficult it is to get.
Right. Right.
Ah, the less we need it and the harder it is to get. And so we get really confused.
Right. Right.
But if we understand it from the suttas, sutta number 36 is the story of the rose apple tree. It's very famous under that name, the story of the rose apple tree. Do you know it?
Is that the no, maybe I don't. I don't think I do.
When I think it's Sukadama, his dad, was the king, and they were doing a plowing ceremony, and young Siddhartha sat under a rose apple tree and went into the first jhana. He was a kid then, maybe 12, 14, something like that. And then later, when he crawled out of the creek, recognizing that he had been practicing austerities for so long that he couldn't even stand up and walk out of a creek by himself. And he says, this is not the way either. First I did jhanas, and then I did austerities, and neither one of them, by the way, they're two extremes of each other.
Right.
It's not working. Right. And then he says, well, why am I afraid of what? The sensual, or the pleasure is the right word. Why am I afraid of the pleasures of first jhana? Because the pleasures of first jhana are not the same as sensual desire. Not the same as sensual pleasures, like going to a brothel and getting drunk and yelling at people and then getting into a fight and winding up in jail. That's what most people take as pleasure.
Right.
Okay. And it happens generally around play day for the Cowboys. And so they come into town. Okay. So this is not the pleasures of first jhana.
Right.
And then he says, why am I afraid? That in fact, the first jhana is the path to awakening.
Right.
That's it. It's the first jhana. Okay.
Right.
So now let's look at first jhana in the sense of samadhi, which means to gather the factors together.
Right.
Well, the first thing on the list is removal of the hindrances. Which means the removal of the unwholesome thoughts.
Right.
Which means then the Mahasi method is dukkha, see the dukkha, rub it all over your face. It's not what the Buddha is recommending here either. The first jhana is to get rid of those hindrances, to throw all those unwholesome thoughts out.
So it's just the gladdening again.
And then back to the gladdening of the mind, which is also a better, perhaps, word translated would be brightening the mind. Lightening the mind. Okay. Or drying out the mind from the sewer that it's in. Right. We're changing the state of mind. And in the process, we're changing the attitude of the mind.
Right.
That in fact, the student has to have a little bit of right view, or they can't practice at all. If our group is wrong completely, then we won't even try this.
Right.
Okay, so right
view. So
that's
why it's first, right?
Right. Yeah. Right view comes first, and then right view comes every time we remember right view. It always comes first, but we have to remember to do it.
Yeah.
So the first thing we do is we wake up. That's the sati, so that we can do that investigation, so we can look, so that we can see. And when we see it, we can see that turd's coming. Don't step on it.
Right.
Okay, that's the right effort.
And is that brightening first jhana when it's?
Well, we're working on the factors. I'm going through them.
Sorry.
Okay. That when we brighten the mind and gladden the mind, also having the body that is positioned such that it is comfortable, that it is safe and secure. We don't want to go down to the local police station to practice.
Right.
because it's not a safe place.
Right.
Right? So we want to go find a place that's safe and comfortable. This is why the Buddha recommends going to. I know a lot of people in modern society don't think of the forest as a safe place,
No.
but at least it's not in the village, which really is a dangerous place.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so go to a safe place like the forest, the foot of a tree, an empty hut, a
Yeah.
pile of straw. Now, it's possible to find a pile of straw that's dangerous. I know that. But let's assume that we also
Right.
know how to find a pile of straw that's safe.
Safe. Right. Yeah.
Okay, and so we get the body safe, secure, and comfortable so that we can eventually get the mind to feel safe, secure, and comfortable by talking ourselves into being safe, secure, and comfortable.
Right.
That this is okay. I'm comfortable enough. And with that comes the next step is satisfaction. This is enough. I feel good enough right now.
Yeah.
Okay, that's satisfaction. Guess what? Dukkha is defined as being dissatisfied, and here we are all of a sudden not in dukkha anymore. We're in a state of satisfaction. So the whole teachings of the Buddha is available to you right now. All you have to do is stop being dissatisfied with all the thoughts that you've got about being dissatisfied about one thing or another, and just reckon there's no reason to be dissatisfied now. Everything's okay.
Yeah.
So I can be satisfied. This is good. So thoughts of Aunt Susie in the argument yesterday, and then we say, oh, wait a minute. Susie's not here. I don't have to
Right.
argue with her in my mind. Let her go. I can sit here with Susie lists.
Right. Right.
I don't have to condition my mind with Susie because Susie's not here.
Right.
Okay, so now that means that we can throw the aha, I see you, Susie, and out you go, you and your argument yesterday and everything, and I can sit here and be in the present moment. Here now, over and over again, because here now is good enough.
Right.
If you have the attitude that it's good enough.
Right.
And when you have that over and over and over again of getting ourselves into that state of satisfaction, which means being free from being dissatisfied, this is what we mean by sukha,
Right.
which is the exactly opposite of dukkha. We've already gotten the entire teaching of the Buddha. He said, I'm going to last.
Right.
So never mind, start again. Now, when we do this over and over and over again, skills begin to develop. The right view, right sati, and right effort, right noble effort run and circle around each other. And so it's fairly easy to get ourselves back into a state of satisfaction.
Right.
And when that happens, and we see that it happens, and we can see that it's actually possible, not only possible, but actual, not just actual, but easy.
Right.
Now something new happens. We change our attitude. The attitude changes is that, oh, this is work. Oh, I've got to do this. Oh, this is hard, but I get results. Into this is easy, and I can do this.
Right.
Yes, we can.
Right.
That's a very positive attitude. In the Eightfold Noble Path, this is referred to as Samma Sankappa. So we have Samma Sati, Samma Ditti, Sama Virya, the effort. Then Sama Sankappa, which means the right attitude, the piti, the I can do this, the wow, things really are great. Wow, I am successful. Wow, I can do this. And we can have those kind of thoughts and the feelings of exuberance on a regular basis because we know how to generate it now. Okay, so there we have now two more factors. We have not only the removal of the hindrances, we have piti and sukha.
Right.
The next item on the list is to apply that, to keep going, and then begin to learn how to sustain it. So when you get it going, it goes.
Right.
Like the swing, when you push it off, it waves up into the air before it comes back down to gravity.
Right.
Okay, the pushing actually pushes it off now. It pushes it into it. And so we have to learn then to apply the mind and sustain it, which means any gravity or any unwholesome thought that comes by, like, oh, I'm getting tired now. That's an unwholesome thought. And it'll just pull us right back down. Unless we're aware of it. We can say, aha, I caught you too. And I am not going to go feel bad and tired because I had the thought that I'm going to be tired and feel bad.
Right.
Aha, I caught it. And so
Yeah.
we can come back and sustain that really, really good feeling. This is what it's all about. Just can we keep doing it?
Yeah.
Second, third, and fourth jhana are not necessary at all for the enlightenment,
Right.
but they're fun things to do when you got a lot of time on your hands.
Right. Okay.
That sometimes second jhana is better than YouTube. Sometimes third jhana is good. Sometimes fourth jhana is even better than sex.
Right.
Especially since you can maintain that longer than you can sex. You know, the problem with sex is you can't keep it going. It's like, right, okay. Oh. And we don't have to go through that cycle of 20 more. We can just say, yeah, sex is like this. It's really easy, really relaxing. Okay. So, but the first jhana is all that's necessary. Why? Because we need to develop the skill of being satisfied.
Right. Can I just say one thing, which is like one word you said that like I've never heard the word exuberance associated with like the Eightfold Path, you know?
Well, that's what piti is.
Right.
Okay, but you do know that they use the word delight.
Right.
Like becoming delighted with the Dhamma, not just into it, not just eager for it, but delighted in the Dhamma.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
That there are several words for that, ordinary words in the Pali that in English began to take on connotations that weren't there.
Right.
One would be Nandi. That's often used. Okay? Being delighted or being into something.
Right.
Like some people are really into the KKK. And they go and they get all excited and they dress up and they dance around, you know.
Right.
It's just not very wholesome.
No, it's not very wholesome. No, there's better hobbies than that.
Right. Because somebody's likely to get hurt.
Yeah, it's not good.
But putting on Dunce's hat and right sheets and dancing around a fire, that sounds delightful.
Yeah.
Humanity's been doing that sort of thing for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And but the question is it wholesome or not?
Right.
And that's what we're looking for. Is this wholesome? Is this wholesome? That's what we're looking for. That's the thing. Can you recognize the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune while they're still in the air, or do you have to get hit with it in order to recognize it? Right? You can see it in the air. I've got wisdom. I can see that. There it went.
Right.
I can play dodge with that because I can see it, but we have to be able to get good at seeing the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune that we shoot off ourselves in our own mind and stop doing that. And then we get really good at that. We can go be in the world and not be affected by all of those people who are unhappy because they keep shooting themselves, not in the foot.
Right.
All right, so we can deal with those people out there well only when we can deal with the people in here well. And so that's why we want to keep practicing one thought at a time, one mind moment at a time, knowing that there's many different ways to spend a mind moment. Taking a natural long deep breath, looking out and seeing the sunny day, looking at the knee and seeing that it hurts, looking at the anxiety that we would have in the chest, looking at the touch and the feel of the cloth on the body, or maybe the wind in the face or whatever. Also, tensions in the neck, headaches. People get really tight when they're meditating in the wrong way. Okay. Well, what that means is that we can relax the body when we catch that. That in fact, it's even okay to massage the neck and move it around and get yourself relaxed again. This thing about sitting still is ultimately there when there's no tensions to be removed. But
Right.
when there are tensions in there, we could do something to remove those tensions with the right effort, loving ourselves, nurturing. That in fact, this is the next part about it, is almost all of our thoughts are conceptualized thoughts. We live in a world of concepts, um, uh, and critical thought. They call it critical thinking.
Sure.
That in
Right.
fact we are taught to be critical
Right.
and think critically, which is different than just accepting what we were told, right?
Right.
But really, what happened is when we were young, those critical thoughts are what we remember, and so we wind up being critical of ourselves.
Right.
So, for instance, Goenka says, when the mind wanders away, never mind, start again. He's saying, don't be critical of yourself because your mind wandered away. Just
Right.
come back and be happy again.
Right. Right.
That's the important point, that we recognize to stop being critical of ourselves and start nurturing ourselves. You're already okay. Everything is fine. You're already enlightened when you feel good
Right.
because you're not heavy.
Right.
So you can lighten up right now.
Right.
And so this is all about it. It's not a clock oriented event. It's something
Right.
that we do right here, right now. And then in
Right.
this moment, we do it again right here, right now. And then
Right.
the next moment, right here, right now. And it's easy to do. It's very easy
Right.
until later we have the thought, this is hard. Oh,
Right.
this is boring. And
Right.
instead of saying, wait a minute, that's just another unwholesome thought. Oh, I'm glad I caught that one. Now I can go back and relax again.
Right. Right.
So this is the practice, one wholesome thought after another, as we remember to look and to change. And it's not hard to do. And pretty soon we begin to get the attitude of a winner. I can do this.
Right. Right.
I no longer have to be the victim that I have
Mhm.
been my whole life. I can actually be the boss here.
Right. Right.
Okay? So the final example of that would be, here we are tooling down the road, and we see all over the place the reflection of red and blue lights behind us while we hear that wow.
Right.
Okay, how do you feel already when I say that?
Freaked out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
uh-huh. Okay, so that means that something dangerous is coming, a cop.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
pulling us over.
Yeah.
Okay, and most people get freaked out. You are no longer the boss, you are now the victim.
Right.
Okay, and so when the cop comes up and says roll the window down, the victim is sitting there, not his
Right.
boss.
100%. Yeah.
Okay, even if you get angry at the cop and start flipping him off, you're still his victim,
Yeah.
and you don't like it.
No, it's worse. You made it worse. You just
You've made it a whole lot
a
worse,
whole lot worse. Right. Yeah.
right?
Right.
But if in fact you were the mayor of the town,
Right. Then he
then you're the
salutes
boss.
you and off you go. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, you can actually have that winner's attitude.
Right.
Okay, like, hello, officer. I'm really glad to see you out working tonight. I've heard so much good about your department. I'm really pleased that we have such a good community here and good
Right.
officers doing such a good job.
Right.
If you talk to him like that before he ever asks you for any identification,
Right.
because nobody treats him well.
Right.
Nobody treats him well. So if you start treating him well because you're better than he is, and you let
Yeah.
your goodness and wellness trickle down to him in a friendly way, you'll be a whole lot better off with that.
Yeah.
He might not even give you a warning. He might, in fact, just enjoy the chat
Right.
and says,
Right.
oh, I saw you running 150 miles an hour. Oh, officer, I didn't know that. I think that the speedometer was broken because I was just doing naturally.
Yeah.
Didn't have a thing. No, I haven't done anything wrong.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy that you're out here catching all of those bad guys.
Right.
You keep at it. You're a good cop.
Right. So, okay, so I have
Now
to go to something.
you have to be the boss in order to be of your own mind in order to do that.
Right.
You have to feel it, because with a cop you're always going to behave the way you feel. Can you feel
Right.
the way you want to feel when you're with a cop?
Right.
His boss is better.
It's interesting too, because I feel like at times the concept of no self, or my misinterpretation of it, messed me up to like empower myself to be the boss, you know?
hmm The boss of your own life. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. You can handle a cop. Nothing to it. What, a
yeah,
$300 ticket? Yeah, I can pay that. Nothing to it.
yeah, right. Yeah,
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 everything is easy. I can handle
yeah,
that. But the old rules inside saying, "Oh, you're a bad boy. Oh, you're going to lose points. Oh,
right, right.
it's going to mess up your insurance." And those, I mean, it's terrible to get stopped by a cop. How dare you? I
Yeah,
mean, what a kind of low class person are you? You know, this is
right,
all the kinds of
right,
thoughts we have for ourselves.
right, right.
Instead, oh, I can handle that. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just another incident. Can do it fine.
yeah. Um, okay, I have to go put my daughter to bed. It's a,
All right.
but so
Well,
first
one
of all,
last thing.
yeah, no, please go ahead. Yeah.
No, one last thing you give me.
Oh no, I just wanted to say like it says so much about the Dhamma that you talk to me like this. Like it still blows me away that you do this. You know? I think it's amazing.
What? I'm not doing anything. I'm just having fun with you.
I that's my way of saying thank you, and also like it's like the proof is in the pudding. You know what I mean? Like it's right here. So I really appreciate you talking to me like this. It's really
Well,
clarifying and
recognize how good you feel right now,
yeah, yeah,
and go put your daughter to bed feeling
yeah.
that good. Go share that good feeling with her.
I will. And so can I just call you again and have another
Sure. In
session and
fact,
all?
I that's one thing that we should talk about is that what are your practice and when are you going to call again?
Yeah. So I mean, gladdening the mind, catching the mind, or being sati.
Well, yeah, just add what we've talked about today to your practice, and we'll talk about when, where, and why, and all of that kind of stuff a little bit later.
Okay.
But right now, take what we've gotten and put it into your practice. And then in a few days, maybe half a week or a week, call
Sure.
me again
I would
and we'll
love
keep
to.
going.
I would love to. Thank you again. It's I'm excited to see how I do in the next few days.
Okay.
Thank you
Well,
so much.
Mike, it is, right?
Mike. Yeah, it's Mike.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll
I'll
see you
change my
soon.
name here. So yeah.
Uh,
Thank you.
okay. We'll see you. Bye bye.
Bye.